Welcome to Ecclesia Principles, a biblical strategy for believers to engage in God's design for government with Ray Eppard.
Hello, glad you could join us again today. This week on Ecclesia Principles, what we're looking at is the principle of balancing self-government and centralization. We actually need both. But in our culture today, a lot of the centralization is pushing to get rid of the self-government because the self-government is the counterbalance to centralization. Centralization draws more and more power to it. The only hindrance to it is self-government. Now, with this, I'm going to go just a little bit different direction, but again, this tension between self-government and centralization, we have to understand how the sin nature plays into this. And I'm going to read Romans 7:23. I've been reading Romans 7:17, but this time I'm going to read Romans 7:23. But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin. That law of sin, that's the sin nature. He says, which is in my members. It's in our body. It's in our members. It's in our flesh. We have that sin nature. Now, how I want to apply this today is because of the educational approach to a few things over the last several decades. It's created a dilemma for us. And if you would, it's a question, it's a conflict that really largely is at the base of most problems, and that's creation versus evolution. A lot of people, well, what difference does it make? It affects policy more than you realize. It affects outlook more than you realize. You see, if evolution is true, if we did just evolve, the Big Bang, and then, the one-celled amoeba, and next thing you know, there's something crawling on the ground outside of the water, and eventually here we are. That does away with something very significant. It does away with the sin nature. And you see, there's a lot of people in our culture today that all of their thinking is thinking that is based on the idea that we don't have a sin nature. That really people are just kind of good or they're bad. And if you're good, you're good. But if you're bad, well, you're bad. You're a bad person. You've got some flaws in you for whatever reason. But if creation is true, and I believe it is, then God made humanity. God put a tree in the midst of the garden, told Adam and Eve to not eat of it, but they did. They sinned. And as a result of that, this sin nature, this fallen nature came into them, and because of that fallen nature, we die physically. And not only do we die physically, but between now and when we die, we have these evil impulses. All of us. All of us do. Now, here's the thing, again, going between self-government and centralization. Many of the people in our culture today in America, over here in this centralization, they do not buy into the concept of creation. Therefore, they do not buy into the concept of a sin nature. They do not have a sin nature. And as a result of that, if they're good people, they're good people, and you should trust them. No, everyone has a sin nature. God made man, man sinned, we have a fallen nature that causes us to want to do things that we shouldn't do. But over here, a lot of our policies, and let's call it a lot of our politics today, is if I want to do it, I should be allowed to do it. What's wrong with it if I'm wanting to do it? Well, the problem is you can have two types of impulses. You can have an impulse to do something good, or you can have an impulse to do something bad. One should be encouraged, the other has to be controlled. But over here, a lot of people, no, we don't need to control this, we just need to be free. And see, here's the thing, especially in this centralization area, that more and more power is creeping into it. There is no awareness of a sin nature. And because of that, you'll hear terms like, well, we're in the 21st century. We should be past that now. That's a statement based on the theory of evolution, that we should have evolved past that now. But there are some of us who are not as evolved as others. And in reality, what they're saying is those among us who are less evolved should not have say over those of us who are more evolved. And in reality, they're really very strongly creating two classes of people, not driven by ethnicity or even economics. It's based on your value system. Do you have a value system based on God, or do you have a value system based on evolution? And the thing of it is, depending on which one you have, dictates whether you should be listened to or you should be ignored. Because if you're still stuck in the time period of believing in a God, then you're not as evolved. We trust in science. Science, if you would, is the new God. But it's not really, because ultimately, people that are true to science often differ in their conclusions. Science is not that cut and dried as some like to make it seem. It's just not. But at that point, these over here, well, it matters who said it. Who said it? The one higher on the chain, the food chain, if you would, whoever's at the top. What they say matters because they've achieved this level, so therefore they must be more advanced than the rest of us. No, that person has a sin nature as well. That person has a sin nature as well. And the bottom line is that sin nature makes you do a lot of things. That sin nature will compel you to lie. That sin nature will compel you to steal. That sin nature will compel you to pull power to you that really should be given to someone else. That sin nature causes you to go after things that you should leave alone. But God's word tells us that we have a sin nature and that we need to put our flesh under. Now, in this, again, going back to the centralization and self-government, when we understand we have a sin nature, I need to govern myself. And the key to all forms of government is good self-government. You see, if I have good self-government, then I can have good family government because I will control and I'll monitor and I'll manage myself and my impulses. At that point, I can have good church government because, again, I'm not pushing for my own way. I'm not seeking my own rights or my own way and so forth. And so I can be a team player in a group. I can be part of a good civil government because at that point, again, I'm not looking just for my advantage. I'm looking for the advantage of the whole because I have good self-government. On the flip side, when someone doesn't recognize that they have a sin nature, but they feel that they have evolved past everyone else, or let's not even take that, let's just say they don't have good self-government. If they don't have the ability to control themselves and keep themselves from doing things that they shouldn't do, they will create problems in their own life. And then if they get married, even if they don't get married, but they have kids, they have a family, then because of most of our family problems actually are caused by poor self-government. If I can't control myself by myself, then when I'm engaged with my spouse, I won't handle that properly. When I'm engaged with my children, I won't handle that properly because I don't have good self-government. When I engage in other groups, social groups, church groups, fellowship groups, I won't be a good team player because I'm more about me. I'm interested in what I want. And then when I go to vote, guess what I'm going to vote for? I'm going to vote for somebody to give me what I want, what will make my life better. Not what's good for the country as a whole, but what makes my deal better. But you see, everything comes back down to self-government. And because of that, because in all reality, so few people today are advocating for good self-government and things that can make for good self-government. In all honesty, they're trying to keep everything that would help good self-government out of the school systems. It just seems like they're trying to take everything out of it so that kids grow up with no self-government. Because what does that do? That really puts them in a position when there is poor self-government, civil government has to be stronger. Centralized civil government has to be stronger. Because if it's not, then you have people committing crimes, doing this, doing that. And so centralized civil government has to become stronger and stronger. And more power has to gravitate toward that area. And so in reality, having a civilization that does not have self-control actually helps facilitate an oligarchy. It helps facilitate civil government becoming the overarching power over all other jurisdictions. And as a result of that, it takes away rights of self-government and gives it over to the centralized civil government. This is the dynamic that we're facing today. We have to do things to improve self-government. We have to do things. We have to find ways to encourage good self-government. We have, that's part of the reason why we're doing this, is so that people can understand the need. See, it's not just that some people say, oh, the government's getting too big. Well, until we improve the self-government of people, civil government's going to continue to have overreach to bring things in to make life tolerable. And that's just a reality. We have to get values back into our culture. A lot of people might think it means nothing. But when we took God out of the school, when we took prayer out of the school, when we took God out of the marketplace, then at that point, we took the values that created good self-government out of the system. And now what we're having is self-government that has no values. Self-government that has very little control. We have self-government. The people become self-absorbed, self-interested, rather than community, rather than family. And because of all of that, civil government has to become stronger. We have to maintain a balance between self-government and centralization. God bless you. See you next week.